So today I'm gonna purposely go on the internet to get angry. Seems like a weird choice, but here we are. It's all for your entertainment. I'm here for you. Hi, my name is Sarah Freshly and welcome back to Freshly Read Books. So today for this video, what I'm gonna do is go on Goodreads and read the 1-star reviews for my favorite books of all time. Am I terrified? Yes, absolutely, 100%. I feel like I'm about to go like Mama Bear on these reviewers and I don't even know them yet and I haven't read their reviews yet. Okay, so we're gonna look up Slaughterhouse-Five first because this is like one of my all-time favorites. I'm not ready. Okay, here we go. It is good to see that only 2% of reviews are 1 stars. Okay, oh, I'm not ready. Oh, this is a long one. Am I supposed to read all of this? Okay. This novel has a pretty basic and consistent structure. A few paragraphs of humorous, I think, writing that has the presumed purpose of loosening you up before you get to the sucker punch paragraph that contains something disturbing / death related, followed by so it goes. And if the so it goes wasn't there to remind you that this is the part where death happens, Vonnegut hammers the point home by relaying it in an inhumanly cool, dry, and nonchalant manner. How coy and provocative. It is coy and provocative, get out. Maybe Vonnegut could have helped the reader along a little more with a footnote. See what I did there? Okay, no, I wholeheartedly disagree. So it goes is such a beautiful phrase to me that I absolutely love. Like, if I were to get any words tattooed on me, it would be so it goes. I think that it just does a lot. It has helped me through deaths in my family. If you don't know, Slaughterhouse-Five is about a man, Billy Pilgrim, who becomes unstuck in time. It is set during World War II, where Billy Pilgrim is held captive as a prisoner of war in a slaughterhouse that has a 5 over the door, hence the title Slaughterhouse-Five. Kurt Vonnegut also went through this exact same thing through his life, so he is drawing from that experience, but he oftentimes breaks the fourth wall. Kurt Vonnegut himself is in this book, just not at all in a main role. He just kind of exists sometimes and he'll say oh, that was me in the other bathroom, which I think is wonderful. It's not something I had seen before I read Kurt Vonnegut. At least not to this extent. So to me, it was very provocative. It was very different. Also, there's aliens in this. That's why, or how, I guess, Billy Pilgrim becomes unstuck in time, which isn't a spoiler. It happens right away. So yeah, I could go on for a while about why I love this book. But the line, so it goes, where it comes from is the Chalfomidorians, the aliens, see time as if they're looking at a landscape, and so they see all times at once. So if in a particular time they see somebody that is in that moment dead, they say so it goes, because they're alive in so many other moments, because they're not stuck in this linear fashion. So that's where So It Goes comes from, which I think is really beautiful. But the way that Kurt Vonnegut continues to use it throughout the story is, I think he does a great job. Partway through reading this book, I was sharing my disappointment with a friend who mentioned that Vonnegut, like the narrator, had actually witnessed the Dresden bombings. Then I mentally slapped myself for even considering that sympathy could cover for the stylistic bludgeoning that Vonnegut inflicted. I suppose there was a well-thought-out reason for making the prose stuttering and choppy, but I can't imagine what that would actually be, nor would I care to. Okay, I think he just doesn't like his writing style, which is fine. That's, you know what, it is a choice. I love it. It's fine that this guy doesn't. First review. Everyone has sung the praise of this book to me, as well as those of Vonnegut in general, for as long as I have been aware of reading. However, I found both it and Vonnegut tiresome and excessively labored. He tries so hard to be hip and quirky and ironic. They know that this is written in 63, right? Okay, I got Slaughterhouse-Five mixed up with Cat's Cradle, which was the book that was actually published in 63. Slaughterhouse-Five was published in 69, but it actually took Kurt Vonnegut 23 years of writing before he figured out a way that satisfied him and explained what he went through. Kurt Vonnegut himself said that he wrote over 5,000 pages of drafts before 1965. So, I mean, for being quirky, I feel of the time period, he was very different from other books that were being written. I mean, I'm not an expert in 60s literature, but I feel even today, it's still a very different writing style that you don't see a lot of. You do see some of, but he was a huge part of that influence. This book has not aged well. It lacks timeless feel of great literature, disagree, and doesn't even function for me on a nostalgic level. I mean, I'd hope not. I think the only genuinely original and creative aspect of this book that I recall was the description of the aliens. Otherwise, it was a complete waste of my time and brain cells. Oh, God. And then they've reviewed it again. This book is literary Frito pie. Get out. Okay. And probably one of the worst books I've ever read. In the beginning of Slaughterhouse-Five, Kurt Vonnegut said he had a very difficult time putting this book together. I completely understand that statement because it is just awful. Okay, he had a hard time putting it together because he went through it. I can't. Okay, I had to come back to say just one more thing. I think the most frustrating thing to read in these reviews is the reviewers thinking that Kurt Vonnegut was like, being like, oh, I'm so clever and I figured out this like fun, cool writing style that nobody else has figured out before, and like, look at me, and the whole like, see what I did there mentality. And another review that I don't think I read the line from it, but it says that like, he just seems like he thinks he's really clever. And it's so crazy to me because I have read a lot of like speeches he has made. I've watched like documentaries about him. I know a fair bit about Kurt Vonnegut and his life, and how much he struggled with like imposter syndrome and not feeling like his work should get the amount of attention that it does get, and struggling with that even more as he wrote new content. So yeah, I think it's funny, and I think that this happens with a lot of things. Like, you see somebody who is critically acclaimed for anything, and people are gonna say like, oh, they think they're so good, even if they definitely don't at all. I don't think Kurt Vonnegut is unique in that position. I'm sure that it's way more people than we could ever imagine don't feel like they deserve the credit they are getting, and that's kind of sad. But yeah, I had to say that. I filmed and partially edited this video like 2 months ago, and I'm just going back in now and adding in like the screenshots of the actual reviews and everything, and I'm just getting like mad all over again. I'm okay. Anyways, just watch the video. Okay, that's enough of Slaughterhouse-Five. My heart can't take it anymore. Let's move on to Life of Pi. This entire review has been hidden because of spoilers. That's fine. I've read it already. Actually, wait, maybe we shouldn't talk about. Shoot, this is actually going to be a really hard book to read reviews of and not spoil for you all. So I do have to be careful. I hated this book so much that I can't even talk about why. Interesting. I'm sorry. I know there's deep metaphorical meaning in this book. I know it's multi-layered, terribly clever, spiritual, evocative, beautifully written, all that. I hated it. No hang on, I still hated it. No past tense. Oh, I still hate it. I'm glad they said no past tense because I did read it with past tense. I don't even know why I hate it so much. I simply do. Why? Okay. Why does everybody hate this and not understand why? Don't take this as a recommendation to read or not read. I'm simply venting my feelings towards the book. You know what? Okay, you go for it. That's fine. Pretentious nonsense. The more I think back on this book, the less I like it. Pretentious? That's so funny. I would not view this book as being pretentious at all. I find it very accessible. I did not enjoy this book at all. I wish I read it with a tiger around. I wish the tiger had eaten me. I think the story was bad. I think the writing was worse. The simple sentences were mind-numbing at times. There were so many of them. There were so many sentences. I just opened to a random page. I counted. The majority of the sentences start with I. I mean, I think these are just choices. Okay, it's fine. I sort of respected the fact that it had one moderately interesting first act of a relatively standard length, followed by one super tedious, highly repetitive, seemingly interminable second act, followed by a super short third act that was all resolution and no action. It's so funny when people say like, I didn't like it for these reasons, and they're the reasons why I liked it. Although I did not find the first act very interesting, especially the first time I read it. I think that I only liked the first act after going back and rereading it, after I knew what happened later in the book. The second act is the entire time with the tiger, which I found endlessly fascinating. Although I do think that like there are parts of it that seem just like long lasting, but it was long lasting for Pi on the boat, you know? But I never thought it felt long lasting in a way that was like boring. Okay, I'm gonna finish this video later and hang out with Scout because she wants to leave this room, and if I let her leave this room and I stay in here, then she's stuck with the kittens, so. Okay, it is the next morning. I'm back. I've got Scout with me on my lap, so I'm ready to continue to have my emotions toyed with by these reviewers. So I also got the books with me now, so that's fun. So next I'm gonna do Jurassic Park because I think that this one will just be like a more fun one to do. Okay, only 1% of reviewers left 1-star reviews. Jurassic Park, if you don't know somehow, is about a man who's creating kind of like a theme park on like this island where he has like dinosaurs. So he's like kind of recreated dinosaurs, and things go wrong. because dinosaurs are dangerous and you can't just like recreate them and expect everything to be cool. And that is what Jurassic Park's about. The science aspect of it is definitely there. Michael Crichton likes to include the science behind it and, you know, how this could possibly have come to be. I'm not a scientist, so I can't speak to how accurate it all sounds, but to me, a non-scientist, it does sound very smart. At the risk of offending what looks to be all my male Goodreads friends who loved this, none of my female friends have read it, which is remarkable, but probably not random. I couldn't finish it. It wasn't the multiple viewpoints or so-so prose, it was the science. I worked for a while as an assistant paleontologist, field prep and curating, and I promise you pretty much everything in the first 50 pages on this topic is wrong. I wasn't loving the book anyway and kept finding random factual errors. Passports not needed for international travel. You can't possibly fake a fax of an x-ray. But the scenes on the fossil dig did me in. Okay, and then she goes to break down exactly why it's wrong. You know what? I can appreciate it. It would be frustrating to read your job like not represented at all accurately. I'm not too bothered about it. Just because those parts like weren't, like they helped with like immersion for me, like reading about those parts, but they weren't like what I loved about the book. But it would really break immersion for somebody that actually like knows things about it. And I'm not that person, as we've already discussed. I can say it is somewhat entertaining and found it better in some parts than the film, but it seems to be less about a dinosaur park and more to prove that humanity is too puny to hurt the planet in a general sense. Life will also find a way despite pollution and so on, and that chaos theory scientists are the only ones dealing with real-life science, whereas the rest of us are just money, fame, hyenas. Wow, I did not think that that was the point at all. I mean, I do think that there is a large, like, life will go on type thing. If we humans die, like, it's still gonna exist, but I don't think that the point is, like, don't try to save anything, you know? Also, not to be that person, but they did spell dinosaur wrong. Sorry. Yeah, I just pretty much disagree with this one. So this book is bad. Yes, it got made into a whole franchise of very popular movies, and the movies are well done. They're exciting and well-paced and have entertaining characters and just enough science to be plausible. Basically, they're everything that the book is not. Those are all things I would say about the book. But the movies are actually nothing like the books. They lift the barest premise from the books and then spin it off into a different story. I mean, there's definitely differences, but I wouldn't say the barest premise is lifted. The characters are largely like who they are. A large part of it's, especially from Jurassic Park to Jurassic Park. The Lost World, like, totally agree with you. And then when you get into like the Jurassic World movies, absolutely agree. But Michael Crichton was good at developing a hook. I'll give him that much. Like, world famous author. I'll give him that much. Each one of his heroic characters is, I suspect, a little bit like himself, or at least how he perceived himself. I don't know. I feel like that's reaching. I don't like when people just assume that authors like are writing themselves in their books. There's a woman too, amazingly, given this is Crichton we're talking about. Okay, I don't think I've read enough Crichton to attest to whether or not this is the case. And also she's wicked smart, supposedly, for most of the book, except when it really matters, and then she's dumb as a doorpost, but in ways that advance the story, so it's super convenient and all done for dramatic tension. I don't know, I never really thought of her as being like dumb. I kind of thought like all of the characters were like dumb in certain areas, I guess, as a way to allow us to have times where things are explained to each other. Like Ian Malcolm has his theories and really knows one area, but other things like nothing. So that allows for a lot of explanation to happen. So I didn't really think of that being any different with the female character, but I do also think that men weren't, and still many of them aren't, good at writing female characters. I can see where the review is coming from, I guess, but it wasn't something that jumped out at me as being like a really poorly written female character. Basically, this novel is 50% science geek stuff, which is fine, not really. 60% dialogue. They don't know how percentages work. 60% dialogue, 40% dinosaurs, 5% description, and 2% suspense. Oh my gosh, this book was full of suspense. And it scientifically proves that you don't have to know math in order to read this. Well, clearly. You merely need the willpower to be able to finish it. Wow, I finished this book so quickly. I remember reading this book on vacation and just like all I wanted to do was be reading it, even though I was like doing fun other things. Okay, I think that that is about all that I can handle for reading reviews about my favorite books, but I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you did, and if there's any reviews that you've found particularly pain to you about some of your favorite books. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.